Hello folks, this is Mr. Dan coming to you from the Landscape Design Classroom, and today I'm going to talk to you about the origin and development of cultivated plants. So now that we're moving into plant science, we need to learn a little about the history and how things developed over the years and where we're currently at with plants in the United States and how they got here. So before Columbus, which would be 1492, and other explorers, Europeans had never heard of anything like potatoes, rubber, marigold, vanilla, tobacco, a lot of these things because they were all from the Aztecs and Incas of Central and South America. So most European vegetables had been under cultivation for about 2,000 years before that. So now you're adding all these new things into it. So the Fertile Crescent, which is in the eastern end of the Mediterranean Sea and Central Asia, or it's also called Mesopotamia. This is where you have the origin of wheat, barley, millet, buckwheat, and alfalfa. So, and Near East, that's where you obtained peas, lentils, chickpeas, pomegranates, apples, and China for soybeans and peaches. Europe for the oats, sugar beets, rye, and cabbage, and India, eggplant and cucumber. So some more roots, Southeast Asia and South Pacific. So that's where we ended up getting our citrus fruits from, oranges, grapefruits, and lemons, and also bananas, mangoes, sugarcane, coconut, and tea. So all these fruits typically coming from a little bit warmer environment. So that's why even in the United States, you see these growing much more proficiently down south in Florida. And in Africa, coffee, millet, cowpeas, and rice. So what about origins of common landscape plants in the United States? So many landscape plants came from formal gardens in northern Europe, but were originally from Asia. Woody ornamentals come from around the world. So the United States is a little bit of a melting pot whenever it comes to different types of plants coming from everywhere around the world, or even from in-states coming across the United States. So one little known fact is that we have pretty much the same type of climate as Asia. So a lot of our plants that are taken over there and their plants brought over here are actually accustomed to our similar climates. So move on to early American crops. Some crops had been long cultivated by American Indians. Those include corn, squash, tobacco, and these crops were sent back to Europe as well. American farmers turned to newer crops rather than compete with European ones. So really popular ones today are soybeans, but we've also been pretty well known for tobacco, rice, and indigo. So USDA, which was established in 1862, as part of its early mission was to collect seeds from around the world. Research important at the beginning because whenever you're bringing seeds in from around the world, you don't have to depend on other countries as much for those goods. So Americans have a continuing interest in new varieties and species. Even in the landscape realm, there's always new plants being discovered, developed. People want newer and better things. So the newer it is, the flashier the color. Typically, people want that. So what makes plants useful for cultivation? Photosynthesis. This is when green plants form the base of the food chain and thus beginning of the energy flow through an ecosystem. So photosynthesis is taking in light, turning that into the plant, and then making it grow. So plants are the only important organisms able to take in inorganic elements and incorporate them into organic compounds in living tissues. Plants form a vital link in the cycling of our nutrients, and humans cultivate and improve plants for food, industry, medicine, oils, and as ornaments. Edible plants. Seeds, fruits, and tubers are food for humans and livestock. So some plants are grown specifically for livestock, such as field corn, which which is fed to many different types of animals, very specifically pigs. And then there's foods that are grown for us and not so much for livestock. So grains are the most important food plants, particularly wheat, rice, corn, sorghum, and barley. And starchy root crops are basic foods in tropical countries. So that'd be like yams, sweet potatoes. You definitely want to have a warmer climate, so they definitely do better in tropical countries. So plants contribute to about 88% of the calories and about 80% of proteins that humans consume. So if you thought meat was where you were getting this from, no, it's actually more from the more from plants than it is from animals. Plants are used for beverages, coffee, tea, mate, fruit juice. And alcoholic beverages are brewed from barley, hops, grapes, grains, and potatoes. Industrial uses: wood for tools, furniture, and housing. Fibers including cotton, flax, jute, capic, and hemp. Chemicals like acetic acid, methanol and turpentine. Oils, and biofuels, wood, grains, and ethanol, methane. So whenever you think of all these materials, just remember that they all come from plants. So that's why the horticulture industry is so important, because it bases itself off of a large span of things. So some things you wouldn't think would be a part of horticulture definitely are. So medicinal use. Some examples would be anti-malarial quinine from cinchona bark. And there is a lot of different types of medicinal use that you can get from plants. Oils, food reserves stored in the seeds and fruits of many plants. Most are used as human food. Some are used in industry. The most significant oil plant is the soybean. Soybeans you really can't say enough about, because that is one of the biggest crops that's produced in the United States and sent all over the world. I know China buys a lot of soybeans from us, or at least they used to. Other oil plants include coconuts, corn, sunflower, peanuts, cottonseed, and rapeseed. And grapeseed, I would think. So whenever you go to a store next time, whenever you go to Walmart, check out like all the different oils in the aisles, or in the oil aisle or in the baking aisle. You'll see a lot of different stuff there. But like I say, like in a lot of my other presentations, read the label and do a little bit of research into like what you want to cook with. But some of these are really good compared to conventional vegetable oils. Ornamental uses is a little bit more of our wheelhouse. Many people appreciate the diversity and beauty of plants. That is the bread and butter of our industry in landscaping, because if you have some really pretty plants up against a background of green plants, people tend to really like that. So flowers, shrubs, and trees beautify yards and parks, and houseplants add a pleasant living touch to our indoor environment. So goals of the search for new crops: substitute for foreign imports, replace materials in short supply, find products that are environmentally sound, provide more healthy food for humans and animals, and new and better plants with new and improved uses. How new cultivated plants are developed? Most new cultivated plants are developed through plant breeding and genetic engineering. I'm not going to read through the rest of this, because this definitely affects our industry here in horticulture. So when you have different genetic engineering, you can actually develop different colors for certain plants. You can get a lot more vibrant colors depending on the genetic makeup. You can also stunt the growth of plants too. So the possibilities are pretty endless on what you can do with plants. So that's the end of my presentation. If you need anything at all, if you have any questions, please contact me down in the landscape design classroom. But I appreciate your time, folks, and you have a great day.